So today at the Facebook Marketplace Graveyard, we are doing quick and easy fender flares. I got these metal flares a while ago from Orion over at Night Shift Auto Lab. I got them from him after I switched from a coupe chassis to a sedan chassis, and now I am passing them on to Louie's e36 sedan because I got fiberglass for mine. So this side I've already cut, and I'm using this premium construction adhesive just as a water and airtight seal to close the gap. And this stuff has a 1 hour dry time. So it's not a 1 hour dry time or cure or whatever you want to call it. It can be painted after an hour. So I just put the Loctite adhesive on that side, and this side I'm getting ready to cut out the arch. So I'm just mocking the arch up right now using some self-tapping hardware. And then once I have all of the holes and everything made and I do the cut, I will switch the hardware from either the self-tapping and do riv nuts in the holes, or I will just rivet the flares on. But I'm just going to show you guys real quick the easiest way to mock and basically cut your chassis up for fender flares. So as you can see by the rust bubbling here, and it's easier to show on the other side because the flare is already off. You can see the bubbling here and here and here and down here. Well, that's the reason the car is getting flares in the first place. It's already kind of rusty, so we're just going to cut out as much of that rust as possible and just replace the cut out rust with fresh metal fender arches. Obviously it's better to do a stock body, but especially for a non-turbo car, you don't really need to go wider in the rear because you're not really going to spin anything wider than a 225 or a 235. So you don't really need all of the extra space in the back. But when the chassis is already rusty and you have to cut stuff out and weld it anyways, or cut it out and bolt it back on anyways, it kind of just makes sense to go with a flare or an aftermarket option instead of just going with, the factory arches. But I mean, if it looked like this, we would just leave it as it is. But unfortunately, didn't look like that, and it was rusty, so we are cutting it all out and using these metal flares. So that is mocked up. That's how it's going to sit. So now I'm just going to pull all of these off. And for my cut, you see I've got the holes there, 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 and there. So now what I do is I go on the inside of that and I cut this first layer. And then after you cut the first layer, you go in and you hammer the inner layer up to meet this outer layer. So let me draw a line on this to follow, and I will cut out the top layer and show you what I'm talking about. So we'll come, well, since this is all rust right here, I'm just gonna come at the bottom here and come up this lip on the edge, and then we'll come out, and we'll do something like, no, we can go higher than that here. And we'll come out to here. I'm gonna leave the bumper as it is. I'm not gonna cut the bumper right now, but that's basically that. We'll cut this and follow this arch. We'll leave enough material to decide what we want to do for mounting, and just to, you know, leave a little bit of strength here on this edge. And just cut that off. Don't worry, I got my safety squints on. So now you get to see how rusty it really is. Because yeah, there might be a little bit of surface rust on top, but you never really know what's under there. Oh, it's so soft. I don't know. Wow. It's very soft. See, the goal is to try and leave as much of the inner panel as possible so you can seal it up so smoke doesn't get into the interior. But it's pretty tough when it looks like this and the whole inner panel is rust. So that's the outer, and as you can see, there's not much left of the inner, which makes this a bit hard. All right, so that can come off. That can come off. So ideally, you hammer all of that up and make these meet before you cut anything out. But with it being so rusty, I just want to cut all the rust out. hot. Alright, so a lot more came out of that than I expected. But did you see how the inside just pulled right up and now it meets the outside? That is exactly what you want to happen. So it actually, the wheel well itself has another lip like right here. So you can't really get it much higher than that. As far as like the inner chassis. So ideally you won't have a bunch of rust on the inside panel like I had. Ideally what you do is you just cut off the outside one, and then like that last step that I did where I took the hammer and I just went like this, and I hammer the inner lip up to the upper lip. So you do that, and then once you hammer it, then you can take, if your inner lip is still there, you can take whatever you're using to cut and you cut it off at the outer lip here. And then the right way to do this is to take a MIG welder and just tack, 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 until you get all the way around the fender well, until there's no holes for air, smoke, water, whatever to get into the chassis. So that's the best way to do that. Obviously with it needing more rust work and not having as much good metal as I was hoping for, not going to weld them together. And I actually did the same thing with my car. So when I did mine, I didn't have access to a welder. It wasn't super rusty, but I didn't have access to a welder. And you can see here that all I did, and you can see because it moves, all I did was use panel bond. I did the same thing for this car that I did to that car, but I used an automotive panel bond to bond the two panels together. So with this car, similar situation. I'm using this Loctite premium construction adhesive. It is good for metal, and it provides superior bonding, and it's good for interior and exterior use. So should be good for sealing the whole panel here. So I already did this side. I don't know, let me see if I can get you up in here. So I already did this side. You see it's all sealed. Obviously it's not the prettiest, but it's going to be covered up. Let me see. It's still a little wet, so I'm gonna give it a little more time. It's only been like 25-30 minutes. It says give it an hour before you paint over it. So I'm just gonna come over. Oh, I need that. So I'm gonna come over to the other side, take my handy dandy little panel bond stuff, and come over here and do the same thing on this side. So as you can see, there's gaps here, there's gaps, there's There's little gaps, there's little gaps. All of these little gaps are areas where smoke will get in and end up in the back seat. Because if you look, no, you can't see it here. It's in the trunk. So it ends up coming into the trunk in these panels and in these holes up here. It ends up going in the chassis and ends up coming from in the fender out these holes and into your chassis, into the cabin, and you fill up with smoke, and then you can't really see. So you want to make sure that if you're cutting anything out of your wheel wells, that any holes that you're creating, you're plugging up, because those holes lead into the cabin. They say not to get this stuff on your hands, so I've got a glove. And then I just take it and fill all the holes. So I just glob it on, and then I take my finger and I just wipe it down, make sure all the holes get filled up, make sure I don't see any pinholes. All right, so it's all done on this side. You see, of course, always trying to point it right at the sun. You can see for the most part, gaps are all closed up. I'm actually not going to, I'm gonna end up coming back and finishing, like painting it another day, just because I want to let it dry a little bit. And also yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I want to make sure that it's sealed. And with how rusty it is, it's kind of yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So, I mean, it's done. I'm gonna put the flares back on. It still needs to be painted, but the flares are done. Yeah, it was crusty. Look at, that's basically all of the fender material. That is the only like metal that's left. So definitely needed to be cut out, but boy, is this car more work than I expected. So I lied. I actually went to put the flares back on, and I can see in this hole, I can see some of the adhesive. In this hole, obviously, you can see adhesive. And in this hole, you can see adhesive. So I'm not going to put the flare back on this side, because I have a feeling if I run the screws through the adhesive, that I'm never going to get them out or be able to use those holes again. So on this side, I actually have the holes available. So I'm gonna put the flare back on this side, so just so I can put the wheels back on and call this done for now. Not gonna paint it today, like I said, because I want to make sure that there are no little pinholes or anything in the adhesive that I put on. But I do want to see how the car looks with the flare and the proper spacers to fill out the flares. Obviously I did not cut this little corner here, so that's going to be a little off, but I have another bumper that is not in as good of condition as this one is, so I'll probably take this one off and leave it in the good condition that it's in, and cut the bumper that has already hit walls and stuff. But that's for another day. So again, this side is not getting the flare. I'm just putting the tire on it. Not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, it's definitely still a little sunk. These are not super great fitting wheels. The fitment on them is kind of terrible, even on like a stock body. So this is them stock with no, what's it called? No spacer. This is with the flare, but also 25 mil of spacer. So it's got a 15 and a 10. This has the same amount of spacer, but I've cut the stock fender off. So you can see it definitely comes out a little bit, but it could definitely use more. And yeah, I mean, they're not a great fitting wheel and tire setup. So I believe they're 17 by 7.5, maybe 17 by 8, but the offset is like, I want to say it's like 38 or something like that, maybe even 44, but it's not a great not great specs on this wheel. But the car looks way better with the flare on it. This is one of the cars that's going to get a paint job this winter. Or maybe not this winter, but probably early spring. But that's going to do it for today. I really don't have anything else that I wanted to get done. I was hoping to get further with this, but with how rusty it was, I wasn't really expecting it to be that rusty. So I'm gonna give it a day, come back. This adhesive is supposed to cure in 24 hours. So if I come back again tomorrow, I should hopefully be able to either A, just paint it, or B, fill the holes that I missed. But I just noticed the G35 is gone off that trailer. Huh. I wonder if it got brought over to the junkyard. To the G35 junkyard. No? I'm so confused. Okay, it did. Woohoo! Confused me there for a second. So this is the G35 junkyard. All sedans. Yeah, but this is the most recent Facebook Marketplace purchase. It's doesn't run, so we either gotta take a motor or figure out what's wrong with the motor for this one and get this running, or take a motor from one of these ones and put it in this one and get it running that way if that motor is bad. But yeah, G35 junkyard. Let me know if you need some G35 or 350Z parts, because we've got some, not a ton, but we've got some. That's cool. That means that the trailer is open again, which means I can hopefully get my Scion over here and try to get that baby going, because it'd be cool. As much as I love to drive this car, it'd be pretty sweet to drive a car that I can get you know, basically 40 miles to the gallon with, and I can fit, like, you know, 16 wheels in the back of it. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. I'm done for the day. This thing is done. It's gonna be a cool car once we do either the turbo swap and the ZF, or the S50 and the ZF. But as it is now, this thing sucks. Whatever. Peace.